years old. I'm 10 years out the ring. I'd spent a little bit of time in jail and locked in my house. I have a lot going on, but it's okay to lose, but it's not okay to not try.
Somehow, got the job done, and, it just felt really good.
So here's what went down when Andrew Tate stepped into the ring and reality came knocking hard. After his fight with Chase Damore, something shifted completely. This whole thing went down under Misfits Boxing in Dubai. 6 rounds with a 200-pound weight limit and cameras rolling everywhere. Tate walked in at 40 years old after being inactive for a full decade. While Damore showed up as the reigning champion, the math was brutal from the start. 11 years younger and 20 kilos heavier, betting everything on confidence, beating basic arithmetic.
There's always going to be a big ask against someone so much bigger than me, younger than me, more active than me, but I want a real challenge. They want to fight tin can, they don't want to fight.
Tate strutted in, with his chest puffed out and voice carrying like this was just another podcast moment, ready to blow up online. Fast forward 6 rounds, and the judges saw it completely different. 57-57, 58-56 for Damore. That majority decision flipped Tate's entire vibe within seconds. You could practically watch his mental gears jamming up. One moment, he's all swagger and absolute certainty. The next moment, he's scrambling for explanations and trying to make sense of what just happened. That final bell didn't just wrap up a fight, it knocked the script right out of his hands and forced him to face the music.
And he's younger than me, he's 20 kilo bigger than me, he's more active than me. I didn't fight a pussy, I fought the champ, so.
Let's go,
in life, you gotta get in there and you gotta swing and never give up.
Appreciate everyone being here tonight. Right from the opening bell, Tate was trying to channel his former self, staying orthodox with sharp jabs and working the body like his kickboxing years never ended, desperately hoping everyone would mistake muscle memory for actual effectiveness. He was selling this image that he still owned the ring, still had perfect timing, still carried that razor-sharp precision. He even claimed afterward that he clearly won the first 2 rounds, which honestly sounds exactly like him because wanting something to be true doesn't actually make it reality. Damore wasn't rushing anything or showing panic, just staying patient with hand fighting and end disruption, not throwing crazy volume, but letting Tate burn through energy like someone who completely forgot what 6 rounds actually feel like after a decade on the sidelines. By the time round 3 rolled around, the gap stopped being something you had to squint to see.
I said I'm really about to share the ring with Top G. It's like, it's a sport at the end of the day. This is boxing. Anything can happen, it just takes one punch. And I think I felt a couple of his, he felt a couple of mine.
Tate's footwork started dragging. That confident bounce disappeared, and Damore began pressing forward with clinches and grinding tactics, all the unglamorous stuff that actually wins fights and shatters egos in the loose. None of this was highlight reel material. This was cold physical reality, crashing the party uninvited. Damore's entire strategy was beautifully simple and absolutely ruthless. Make the older fighter carry extra weight, drain his legs completely, mess with his breathing rhythm, and watch all those sharp punches start coming back in slow motion. Once round 4 hit, Tate looked genuinely heavy between rounds with his shoulders climbing and mouth hanging open, desperately trying to mask exhaustion while his body was broadcasting the truth louder than any microphone ever could. A decade away from competition doesn't magically vanish because you believe it should, and Damore made absolutely sure of that fact.
No excuses. I'm not going to say anything bad about him. I'm not going to make up any reasons. He was the man who won. He deserves this victory. Truthfully, completely, honestly.
Round 5 arrived like a freight train. The exact moment where everything Tate was fighting to hide finally showed up, written across his face. Damore connected with an uppercut that completely disrupted Tate's balance, and suddenly this stopped looking like a competitive bout and started feeling genuinely uncomfortable to watch. Tate absorbed real punishment, the kind that doesn't get explained away with clever social media posts later. A nasty cut split open above his right eye. His legs started looking uncertain, and for the first time that bulletproof confidence fully shattered, there was this moment where Tate hit the canvas, and even though officials ruled it a push instead of a knockdown, the visual damage was already done. The crowd started chanting Top G with more desperation than celebration. Not because he was dominating, but because they were trying to will him through it.
And I think it was a very entertaining fight from start to finish, and I think it had people on the edge of their seats, and that's all you can ask for in a boxing match.
Look, I know there's a lot of respect between you and Andrew, but a lot was made of the weight before.
Tate completely switched into damage control mode, grabbing and holding and leaning on pure ring intelligence instead of trying to win exchanges. Doing absolutely everything possible to stay standing and avoid getting stopped completely. This wasn't about controlling the fight anymore, this was about protecting whatever pride remained. Still, he managed to hear that final bell, no referee stoppage, no dramatic collapse, just 6 long rounds of grinding reality that toughness alone can't cancel out age, rust, or significant size disadvantages. He survived the distance absolutely, but surviving tells a completely different story than dictating pace, and by the time those scorecards got read, the confidence that walked into that ring had already started packing its bags.
You know, I felt like I won the first 2 rounds. Because he's 10 kilo heavier and started leaning on me and got some energy. But I didn't quit, never give up, never retreat, never surrender, fight to the end, go out in your shield.
Then we got to the supposed bombshell moment. And honestly, it felt more awkward than explosive. Andrew Tate straight up admitted he experienced genuine fear before accepting this fight, something he swore had never happened to him before in his life. Fear, coming from someone who literally sells confidence courses online, from someone whose entire brand revolves around preaching total dominance. All of a sudden, fear becomes the main storyline. He dropped this confession casually, like admitting fear was somehow a power play, like vulnerability was actually strength, but really it sounded like someone scrambling to control the story after completely losing control inside those ropes.
And I felt a tinge of fear for the first time in my life. And that's when I knew I had to fight. Because the second I felt afraid, I knew I had to fight. I can't live.
He tried flipping that fear into some kind of motivation, claiming the fear itself triggered this personal code about never backing down from challenges. According to his version, feeling scared activated some deep rule system he lives by. It sounds profound until you notice this philosophy conveniently surfaces only after the loss gets announced. Before the fight, it was all confidence and certainty. After the decision, it became deep philosophical reflection. This wasn't courage we were witnessing. This was reputation management, disguised as soul-searching, rebranding hesitation as wisdom after those scorecards didn't break his way.
You know, I felt like I won the first 2 rounds. And then because he's 20 kilo heavier, he started leaning on me and sapped some energy. But I didn't quit, never give up, never retreat, never surrender, fight to the end, go out in your shield.
Tate kept hammering the age difference, constantly mentioning he was 40 years old, facing someone in absolute physical prime, 11 years younger, 20 kilograms heavier, way more active recently. He repeated this over and over, definitely not making excuses, of course, just providing context apparently. Fascinating how age became irrelevant during the first few rounds. Before fatigue kicked in, age meant nothing. After exhaustion started showing, age suddenly became the co-star in every public explanation he offered.
So I have no excuses, training camp went fantastic. Time is the fire in which we all burn. Unfortunately, a 40-year-old's not a 22-year-old. But I gave it my absolute all, and I have nothing but...
Where he stayed disciplined was around injury talk. He made it crystal clear that he wouldn't accept any excuse involving physical problems, insisting training camp got completed fully without interruptions, no broken bones, no muscle strains, no secret issues holding him back. On the surface, that sounds genuinely honorable. In practice, it eliminates the final safety net, because if camp went perfectly and preparation was flawless, then what unfolded in rounds 4 and 5 becomes even more brutal, since it means this was actually the best version available that night.
Bad about him. I'm not going to make up any reasons. He was the man who won. He deserves this victory. Truthfully, completely, and honestly, I'm actually very proud of him.
The entire narrative framework shifted completely at this point. The loss stopped being a loss and transformed into some deliberate confrontation with personal doubt. He didn't fail, he chose to examine himself. He didn't get outboxed, he explored fear as a concept. It was remarkable, watching the language evolve in real time. This wasn't taking responsibility. This was creative storytelling, a defeat wrapped in inspirational marketing. Packaged as character development, hoping everyone would celebrate the bravery instead of focusing on the outcome written on those judges' scorecards.
And I'm glad to know that Misfits have a true champion, because he is a true champion. Because he showed tremendous heart and tremendous grit, and he fought to the end just like I did. So I'm not disappointed in myself. I don't operate from that frame. The only way I would be disappointed in myself is if I was too scared to fight at all.
Once the final bell rang, any hint of rivalry disappeared instantly. Tate repeatedly gave Chase Damore full credit as the deserving winner and completely refused to question the decision in any way. On paper, that appeared classy and respectful, but it also slammed the door shut on any potential arguments. No robbery accusations, no heated controversy, just complete acceptance. That acceptance carried weight, because arguing would have demanded energy he clearly didn't have remaining. The smartest play was showing respect, and he committed to it hard, almost aggressively gracious.
Agreed to fight when I told Vance. There was a conversation that was at Andrew. You're 40 years old. You just got out of jail. You've been through so much. You have so many problems. There's so much going on. Why would you do this? Why would you risk it all? Why would you get in there?
Damore responded with respect that probably stung worse than trash talk would have. He confirmed Tate hit harder than anyone he's ever faced, saying he definitely felt those clean connections landing. That sounds like a compliment until you remember those power shots didn't alter the final result. Being someone's hardest puncher becomes meaningless when the younger fighter absorbs everything and takes over the championship rounds. Power without stamina turns into praise, with a hidden insult tucked inside.
Or would that fight have gone differently if he wasn't on the 200-pound limit?
You know, it's a hard to say what ifs. Like, that wasn't the case. That wasn't the scenario. I don't want to discredit my opponent in any way. He showed up very tough. I showed up very tough. We fought it out. That's what it was.
How are you going to celebrate the win?
Talk about the weight limit started immediately, and Damore crushed it without any hesitation. He dismissed the idea that fighting at 200 pounds changed anything meaningful, calling the whole discussion completely irrelevant. No alternative scenarios, no hypothetical discussions. They competed under mutually agreed conditions, and that settled everything. That response eliminated another potential exit strategy. No rehydration complaints, no scale controversies, just two fighters, 6 rounds, and a majority decision that didn't need any asterisks attached.
So I have no excuses. Training camp went fantastic. Time is the fire in which we all burn. Unfortunately, a 40-year-old is not a 22-year-old. But I gave it my absolute all, and I have nothing but respect.
When rematch possibilities got mentioned, Tate shut it down immediately, saying it would be disrespectful to discuss so quickly after the official decision. Again, the language selection mattered tremendously. Disrespectful sounds like principles, but it also removes any time pressure. There was zero fire to run it back immediately. No burning desire to flip the script. Meanwhile, Damore was already looking ahead, publicly calling out Tommy Fury as his preferred next opponent, already building momentum instead of dwelling on what just happened.
I'm afraid to not try. So once again, absolute respect to Chase. Complete respect to Chase. No excuses. I'm not going to give you any bullshit about injuries or any of that crap. He got in there, he fought against the odds, and he beat me, and he deserves full credit. He's a true champion.
What this entire fight actually exposed wasn't bravery or deep philosophy, but serious ring rust showing up uninvited. Brutal ring rust that even someone with hundreds of combat sports bouts cannot simply ignore. 10 years away doesn't politely wait for confidence to bridge the gap. It reveals itself through breathing patterns, foot movement, recovery time, and mental composure. Those later rounds made that reality impossible to miss. The experience never vanished completely, but conditioning absolutely did, and that separation determined everything once things turned genuinely physical.
Seeds of doubt grow in forests of inaction. I don't operate that way. If Chase and I had to fight again tomorrow, I'd go tomorrow still with 100% belief in myself, even though I know he just beat me. That's who I am. So I don't, the second I knew that, I was worried about it, I knew I had to do it. And I'm not afraid to lose, I'm afraid to not try.
Age, extended inactivity, and relentless clinch warfare combined into something totally predictable. Tate slowed down, started leaning heavily, grabbed constantly, and focused on surviving rather than winning exchanges. This wasn't some mysterious breakdown. It was the inevitable consequence of carrying extra years, facing a younger champion, and depending on past reputation to replace current physical preparation. The confidence storyline crumbled the instant fatigue became visible, and no amount of mental gymnastics could undo what his body had already decided. When everything wrapped up, Tate repackaged the defeat as evidence of action over endless speculation, highlighting effort over image protection. He publicly rejected ego-driven denial, which caught many people off guard, but the real revelation wasn't that he stepped up. It was that for once, the actual performance forced him to acknowledge limitations instead of pretending they didn't exist. Not just because of losing, but because of how rapidly that confidence transformed into deep reflection once reality started hitting back.